Okay guys, this time we're gonna be solving radical equations, right? So like if we look at example number one, if you notice I have my variable x, but I need to leave it, by itself without the radical. So you always do the opposite operation. So the opposite operation for square root is, bringing it to the power of 2, right? To square it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna square here, and then whatever I do on one side must be done on the other side. So that's what I'm doing. If I square this, I'm gonna have just x by itself, right? Because that's what this exponent does. It takes care of that radical. It eliminates the radical. And then if I square 7, I get 49. So that'd be the answer for the first one. X equals 49. What about number 2? Same thing. Make sure that the radical is isolated, and then you just square it. Again, you square both sides. So over here, what you're gonna get is just x plus a without the radical, and then 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1 is 1, and then we just subtract a from both sides, and you're done. X equals -7. That's it. So let's keep going. Again, I see the square root by itself here, right? So I'm gonna square it. I'm gonna go ahead and square both sides again. So that's gonna take care of that radical. So that's gonna be just 3 plus 2x without the radical. And then 5 squared is what? 25. We subtract 3 from both sides. From here, just a normal equation. 25 minus 3 equals 22. We divide by 2. So x equals 11. On the next example, I noticed that the radical is not by itself. There's a 3 here. So unlike this right here that you already had the radical isolated on one side of the equation, in this case there's a 3 here and between. So I'm going to get rid of it by adding 3 to both sides. That's going to cancel that. So you have square root of 5x minus 1 equals 5 minus 3 is 2. Right, so I now just square both sides. So that 2 is going to eliminate the radical. 5x minus 1 equals 2 squared is 4. We add 1 to both sides. 5x equals 5. Divide by 5. X equals 1. Another thing you have to keep in mind is whenever you have a square root, it can never equal a native number. There's no such thing that square root of anything being a native number. So whenever you see that the radical is by itself and it equals a native number, the answer is going to be the empty set. No solution for that one. Okay guys, on this example, before you say, okay, this radical is equal to a native number, therefore it's going to be no solution, this is not the case. You have to leave the radical by itself. I notice it's a -6 right here, so I'm going to divide both sides by -6. Divide by -6, that's going to take that -6 away. I got square root of x plus 8 equals -18 divided by -6 is positive 3, so it's no longer a native number. So that wasn't a no solution answer, because once you leave the radical by itself, that was a native. Once you leave the radical by itself, this number becomes positive, so therefore it's not a no solution problem. So now I'm gonna square both sides. So I got x plus 8 equals 3 squared is 9. And then we just take away 8 from both sides. And we're done. X equals 1. X equals 1 for that one. Next example, same thing. If the radical would have extended up to this point, then I would just square both sides, right, and take it from there. In this case, I need it to is outside the radical, therefore I need to move it to the other side to leave the radical part by itself. So you got square root of 6x equals 3 plus 2 is 5. You square both sides, and that gives you just 6x without the radical equals 25. And then we just divide by 6 both sides. Not always gonna get a whole number, so if that's the case, just leave it as a fraction. 25 over 6 will be my answer. 25 over 6. Okay guys, next example. I need to leave again the radical part. This part right here has to be by itself. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm gonna move the 1 over to the other side. You leave the 5 till later, so I'm gonna add 1 to both sides. That's gonna take care of that. 5 square root of 3x plus 1 equals 20. Then this 5 is multiplying, therefore I divide by 5 both sides. Divide both sides by 5. That's gonna take care of that 5. So I got the square root of 3x plus 1 equals 4. So I square both sides. So that's gonna be 3x plus 1 by itself equals 16. Okay, so we just take away 1 from both sides. So I get 3x equals 15. Let's go to the side here. 3x equals 15. Divide by 3. X equals 5. And that's my answer. Okay, so notice that we need to leave the radical by itself. So first you do the adding and subtracting. In this case I added a positive 1 to get rid of the negative 1. And then I just divided by the 5. That was multiplying the radical by doing the opposite operation, which is dividing. Then once the radical is by itself, that's when you square it. And you have to do it to both sides. And then after that it's really easy, no big deal. What about this one here? The radical is by itself, so I'm gonna square both sides. Right? So I'm gonna have x over 3 equals 2 squared is 4. This 3 is dividing, so I get rid of it by multiplying. I multiply both sides by 3. So x equals 4 times 3 is 12. And that's it for now. Okay guys, that's 3 examples, right? So number 10 looks very much like the previous example, right? But now we notice that the radical doesn't go all the way, and the 3 is not included, right? The one before, the radical, went all the way down here, so at that point I squared it. But now the 3 is out of the picture, it's not inside the radical, so at this point I'm gonna multiply both sides by 3 to leave the radical by itself. So that's going to cancel out. I get the square root of x equals 2 times 3 is 6. And then we just square both sides. Are we done? X equals 36. Next example, I got 2 radicals, right? So even though that one looks harder than the previous one, these are the easiest ones. All I have to do is square both sides. So what happens when you do that? You're gonna end up with just what is inside the radical. that's it. We take it from there. Subtract x from both sides. 2x minus 1 equals 9, and then we just add 1 to both sides. 2x equals 10 divided by 2, x equals 5. Okay guys, and last but not least, same thing, two radicals equaling each other, so I'm gonna square both sides right here. So I'm gonna get 6 minus x, again without the radical, equals x over 5. To get rid of that 5, I need to multiply both sides by 5. So that's what I'm doing. I multiply, let me use a different color marker here. Multiply by 5 here. I multiply by 5 over here. So what that does is that's gonna cancel these out, and then I need to distribute those numbers right there. So I'm gonna get 5 times 6 is 30 minus 5x equals just x. I'm gonna bring the x's together, so I'm gonna add 5x to both sides. Cancels out. 30 equals x plus 5x is 6x. Divide each side by 6, so x equals 5. Okay, now that's the end of it, guys. That's it on radical equations for now.